great. And I emailed her as soon as I knew that I was going to have surgery. It happened to be on back to school night, and she said, that's okay, we can do it another time, and it's great that we know early. So, so thank you very much for being flexible. So I'm Mrs. Frazier-Verpooten. I did get married a couple of years ago, and my husband is very sweet and lets me keep my old last name because I've been Frazier for so long. So that's, a lot of the kids now, they call me Mrs. Vert because it's short. Oh, come on. All right. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself as a person, as a human. This is one of the things that I do outside of teaching is I'm a professional Christmas caroler. And we sing at Disneyland, and this last year we sang at California Adventure and their little Buena Vista Street. So it's kind of fun. I get to do that in the evenings and on weekends, and so that's something I enjoy doing. My daughter is a dancer. She dances 14 hours a week. And then my husband loves to ride dirt bikes, and here he was teaching my daughter how to ride. So I have my Bachelor of Arts in Music Education from Azusa Pacific University, and then I got my multiple subject credential also from APU. Then I also have my Master's of Arts in School Administration from Concordia, but I just still feel called to be in the classroom because I love being with the kids. And then I've been a teacher in Tustin Unified for 18 years. I've been teaching for 22 years total. I did my first teaching up in Baldwin Park, California. So I'm going to go over our curriculum, a little bit of what we do. In language arts, we do readers workshop, writers workshop, accelerated reader. We have some core novels that we read. This year we're reading Sign of the Beaver and Fighting Ground, and they go with our history. And then we also have a core literature book that we read, a lot of short stories. Right now we're reading a book called Walk the World's Rim, and I'm reading aloud to the kids. And it's a historical fiction book about the Indians and their relationship with some of the Spanish explorers. So I did a lot of research over the summer about some different styles of teaching, and one of the things that I got really excited about was teaching through living books. And so doing a lot of teaching history through some historical fiction or biographies or a book by one author. So that's kind of why you see like stacks of library books all over my room, because I just was crazy going to the library finding these really great books that I think make history come alive for kids. And I think it's going to be really enjoyable for both of us. I think the kids are really enjoying this story and learning about history through these people's lives. So good, Sierra's nodding her head. So math. You're going to hear a lot about something called the Common Core. And what we're changing over from is our California standards and our California standards states testing to the National Common Core, which is really neat because from state to state now, all of our kids are basically going to learn the same thing. Because if you look at other state standards, they're kind of different. They study different things. So if you were to move, you kind of get a disjointed education a little bit. So we're calling it a flexible year, and one thing I just keep feeling like this is a nice year to breathe. For the past 12 years with the state standards and all the testing and all the evaluations based on testing, I mean these are kids. I always like to see how were they in 4th grade, and did I help them grow in 5th grade? And even if they were proficient in 4th grade and they stayed proficient in 5th grade, they learned a whole year's worth, so they did grow, and yet the people who write the newspaper say, oh, there was no growth, and so it's been a little stressful, I would say, for the past 10 years. So I just feel like with the changing over to the Common Core, we get to breathe a little bit. And the Common Core assessment isn't ready yet, and so it's really weird because we're still going to take the state standards test at the end of the year, even though we're teaching Common Core. So that's another way, we get to breathe because we're not going to be stressed about those tests like we have been in the past, I think. So that's really exciting. So math is one of the things that's really changing, the order in which we teach things. There's a lot more processing. So I know we did an activity yesterday where my friend Theo Beauchamp, she's another 5th grade teacher, she taught the kids to think beyond the algorithm, and the algorithm meaning line the numbers up and write the addition sign. And so we learned how to use tally marks or use charts or draw pictures. And if kids can really understand the process and not just the rules, first I do this, then I do this, then I do this, it seems to really help. And there's a lot of research. We had a teacher, Mrs. Barr, a couple years ago. Her kids scored 100% proficient in advanced doing this kind of math. It's called CGI, Cognitively Guided Instruction. So I'm really excited about using that and having a new way to teach math. So you're going to see fewer problems and more process, more explaining, having them explain what they did, which I think is really valuable for the real world. Just a little aside on the math. My husband, he dropped out of high school and he went straight into his dad's construction business. And he ended up taking the GED and going to college. But his mental math is incredible. It's so much better than mine. He'll say, I'll say, well, what's 270 times 5? And he just goes, oh, well, that's 200 times 5, which is 1,000. And then it's 70 times 5, which is 350. And so it's 1,350. Just like that fast. And he has actually taught me how to do that by breaking apart numbers instead of always having to go for the pen and paper and learning the rules. So I'm really excited about that. And I just thought that was a neat story to tell that, his math is very real world. He uses it every day out on the field. And that's what we want. As a parent, that's what I want for my child. So. In social studies, I'm going to go ahead and close the door. And you can pause. Oh, thank you. Social studies, we focus on the states and capitals and U.S. history. We begin with the Indians and we go pretty much through to the Revolution by the end of 5th grade. And then they pick up the Revolution in 8th grade and they go from the Revolution to the Constitution. And then they pick up that in 11th grade, I believe, and go Constitution to current events. So through the course of being in school, we'll get a whole big picture of U.S. history. In science, we've got 2 science kits that they send, so we can do a lot of hands-on and experiments.